Mobility, flow, and balance. We're actually going to start off with your book. So we're going to do our little walk around your space. Even if your space isn't a big space, you could actually just have marching feet. Your mirror might come in handy as you try to set your book. I've swapped out my book. It's been a while actually since we've used our books, but I've swapped out my book for a heavier book that's larger than what I had been using. All right. So begin. I hope that when you put the book on your head, you felt or were inclined to lengthen your neck and pull your chin back and create this nice tall stature to your body. So if that wasn't one of your first things that you did as soon as you felt the book get on your head and try to balance it, and as you walk around, if the walking around aspect throws your control, then you're the candidate for just standing still and trying to get that book to not move. When you, if you're comfortable enough and you feel like you have enough space to just walk backwards with your book, do that. Your book doesn't even have to sit exactly centered. So as I'm feeling my book, because I didn't really stare at myself when I was placing it, there can be even a little offness to your book and you can still balance it. But if you feel like it's not centered, then take your time, like figure it out, because we are going to be doing some turning of our head. I want you to get just into your forward and reverse walk. And the reverse walk, when I watch people reverse walk, what I pay close attention to is this. When you step back, are your feet tracking in a way where they're kind of crossing back behind the other one and then the toe is turning out? Try not to do that. If you had grooves, tracks that your feet were in when you're walking forward, when you step back, I want you to feel your weight shift from side to side. It's not almost, it is an intentional widening of your step so that you feel the ball of your foot plant straight and then your heel tracks straight. Because forward walk, heel to toe. Now, as you do your forward walk, now you can actually get yourself into a more streamlined walk if your balance permits it. Heel strike, roll to the ball of the foot. Heel strike, roll to the ball of the foot. And as you go backwards, if you're working with me, cervical, spine retraction, tuck your chin, right? You're standing up nice and tall with your carriage. You are intentionally widening your reverse stride so you feel the ball of the foot hit, and then you drive down to the heel. Stretch, push. And as we come back into our forward walk, I want you to take 3 steps. If you can get into a heel to toe connection, do that. And on your third step, which is this one for me, stop, squeeze your perch, stand rooted, take the tailbone, tuck the tailbone under, slide the ribs down, shoulders go with it, and turn your head. So if you just turned your head really quickly, you may have lost your book. If you get your head turned and everything still feels like you're in good control, then I want you to stretch your arms and I want you to rotate your trunk even more. Look back off the back arm and then bring everything back around. When you come back around, release the arms, take your 3 walking steps, however tight you can get your foot pattern, right? Because the wobble that you may or may not be feeling, right? So that's my 3. Before you start turning, pull everything back so your rear leg is your dominant rooted leg. Tuck your chin, right? Hopefully when you tuck your chin, you feel your spine get longer, right? And now turn your head. It doesn't matter which way you turn your head. If you're doing like what I just did, you're turning your head the other direction from where you just were. And now, because I feel pretty good, I'm going to outstretch my arms, squeeze my rear glute tighter than the front one, and I'm trying to twist my shoulders as if someone is pulling my arms, right? And that back arm is way back there. Ease out of it. Ooh. So if you eased out of it, I fell out of that step because I literally I could feel myself actually start wandering. It's crazy. Walk out of that. That is such an interesting thing about your balance. You can nail it on one side, or there are parts of it that you might be able to really feel like you're in charge of, but then as soon as you've gone beyond the point of what your body can handle. So both legs together, try to take your big toe edges, put them to touch and a little space through the heels, push your chin forward, jut it forward, hands around your clavicle and shoulders, pull the chin back and try to slide the shoulders down and then tuck the derriere at the same time. When you tuck your derriere, your abs, you should also feel like your buns and your abs work together. And then you're going to let your chin glide forward, which is a very unattractive position. And now pull it back, push the shoulders down, feel your hips go into that nice full pelvic tilt with the belly tight. So now you're here, and we're going to go turn the head, twist the shoulders, lift the elbows, twist the shoulders, squeeze at the kneecaps so everything's nice and strong. Twist your body around the other way. Your head will often stop at a certain point. And I want you to try to go a little bit further around with your gaze, because as you come back to center, relax the arms, relax your body. When your body goes to its initial stop position, that's your position of control, right? And we're going to do the rotation one more time to each side. So what I want you to do this time as we go into the rotation is find where your initial stop is, and then work really hard. I'm going to reset the commands to the body. Okay. So cervical spine retraction, pull the buns through, stand really strong through the legs. Right. Start your initial rotation. And then lift the elbows, pull the hips into their full contraction, belly to spine, and then see if you can keep turning, because your head actually will go further. Keep the eyes open, come back to center. There we go. This is your last one. So pull your chin back, get your stature nice and tall. And if you're posting on the front of your foot, draw back. Find that center position where you're not overly loaded heels nor overly loaded balls of feet, and feel yourself stabilize in a neutral position because your hips are in pelvic tilt, your abs are in, shoulders are down, neck is long with the chin tucked. Turn, 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 turn. As you make that initial stop, go, okay, I'm going to start turning my head some more, and then see if you can get your shoulders to rotate. This is a really intense stretch for the mid body too. Come back to center, release and relax. All right, one foot in front of the other. This front foot is not a weighted leg. So I want you, if you need to go to your wall now as a little stability, do that. I want you to try to let this leg just trace a circle. And as it comes through the back end, the knee softens so that it can slide right back in against the other leg, right? You can put hands on hips, sweep it around. Can you go backwards now? Stretch, pull it back, push. This little bit of leg movement, right? We're actively working on the stance leg, even though we have what looks like the leg that's really working, right? It would seem like the leg that's moving is the dominant work leg, but it's time under tension on the other leg. And switch sides. You're going to do about 5 or 6 with each leg. Doesn't matter which direction you start, just start your circle. Push, pull. When I am able to work with people without their shoes on, what I see with their feet becomes very telling about why some of the breakdown in the body's control reverse, right? For example, if you're somebody that has hammer toe, right, and bunions, then instead of your weight being able to be displaced throughout the entire ball and heel, right, and across your toes, like you start taking the foundation away when your feet and the toes are disformed. Release and relax. You're done with your book. So sometimes the balance can't actually be improved because we have deformities that are lessening our foundation for our body weight. And then you're done with your book, done with your book. And then couple that with, if that is an aspect of something that you're dealing with, and then you've got knee issues, right? So we know that if the toes are deformed, then chances are your arch is weak. Grab your change. If the arch is weak, then that means that when weighted, the arch will flatten out, which then triggers the ankle and the knee, and then we don't have weight on the outside of the foot. And so it is the whole trickle down. We're just going through this piece by piece. So I say that to then guide you here. If you're like, that's exactly what my feet are doing. I've got hammer toe, bunions, I got flat arches, then you need support because you need to make sure that the foot you stand on, that you can control your ankle position while you are picking up the coin, right? So if you're going to put your coin in a pile, right? Stretch, pick it up. And the thing is even though this can be turned into a balance move, the primary move is the strengthening of the feet. So don't get hung up with needing to be able to stand on one foot and realizing that you're always falling out of balance on one foot, because that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is for you to give yourself enough support so that we can properly train the weak part of the foot while the other foot is actually doing its arch training, okay? And if neuropathy, right, is one of those things that you are also contending with, switch sides. So say you've got some neuropathy going on. That is also going to trigger this, it's a loss of sensory, right? So with the deadening of the nerves in the feet, I would have you start by looking down at your stance leg, making sure that your stance leg is starting true. If your feet are all toes like bunched up, do your very best to stretch them out, plant the big toe, look at your ankle, pull your ankle away, which is going to cause you to actually twist the knee, which will then fire up your derriere. Okay, pick it up. So if you do have neuropathy, what will often happen is you will go and your toes will connect with the coin, and then you'll think that you actually have the coin only to realize that you don't have it. So that would be a very common thing happening, right? Is you go, you feel it, and then you don't feel it. Or maybe you don't actually even feel it. You see that your toes have actually landed on the coin, but you can't feel it. So you got to work really hard to get those toes to do their job. And if you look down at your stance leg now, are the toes on your stance foot all bound up? Because we have to stretch them out and put weight where it's supposed to be. All right, here we go. Use your support base or not. There's no sense in being all like twisted and fighting this movement here if you already know that your feet are weak, neuropathy, flat arches, right? We're going to use the coins one more time, but this is going to be a moving stretch for hamstrings. You may or may not actually even get your hands on the coins. So again, I don't know how much of a support you need. It might be, let me just show you a couple of options. So if you've got a block, so now we know if you had a hard time just picking up the coin, right, with the foot, then this next progression, which is taking us up the chain of the back of our leg, calf and thigh, that you might need support. And so from a profile standpoint, but the foam roller would maybe too much support. I don't mean too much support. It might put your hand too high from the ground that doesn't work for you either. I'm giving you options because we don't normally do this, right? So with the foam roller, you can step in, plant it. You're on opposite leg to the support arm is the lifted leg, like you're doing single leg deadlift. Bend that leg as much as you need to, trying to get to your coin. Step back, step in, plant it, check out your foot, make sure the ankle's not sliding and the hip just twisted. Roll the foot out. The weight of the foot, if you pull your weight to the outside edge of your foot and pull the knee out and stretch the other leg, you become like this hinge aspect to your body. Step back, step in, plant, soften the knee on the stance leg, keep your spine long, focus on your piece of change, bend your front leg as much as you need to, trying to get to the coin. Step up, step back, step back. You're repeating all one side. Plant, soften your stance knee. And if you're like, oh, I don't need my hand on the support, then you just keep reaching, step back, step back. I've got 3 more pieces. Soft knee, push, and pull back. So the last time, I think it was Monday's class. I'm not certain if it was Monday's class or a class last week. Soft knee, this will give me a 10. All right, shake it up. Make sure you switch hands on your support base. So what if you feel like the foam roller is just a little like too high? And I will tell you that the smaller block you use, okay, the smaller, because you have to be able to control your hinge to a lower level, right? That if you're looking to advance from the foam, you might not be ready to not have any support, but the foam may be too much support, then you lower your support base, right? Soft knee, because that time spent getting from no support to support, right? And then you have to gauge how far of a reach. Put yourself closer to being over the top of your coins so that you can bend that leg as much as you need to without feeling like you're overly stretching. You're in squat mode, right? The other leg is pushing back like someone's pulling that knee. And here's the tricky part. How do you bend down enough to get the coin? This single leg movement becomes quite a challenge, and it will be very revealing what muscle on which limb is weaker. So I already know that my hamstring on my right leg is weaker than that on my left. I'm having to really fight for what I know my good form to be, right? So this block for me feels like it's way too much work compared to the other leg with the foam roller. And what if you never get to your coins, but you're just going through the executing load, bend leg, make sure the knee doesn't slide in, keep the hips square and hinge. Because you see, when you hinge is also when dysfunction happens. So to get me caught up, I'm going to stop talking. Got these last three. Big stretch, big stretch, big stretch. You have to be prepared to really bend. And now, if you're still with me and you're like looking at the screen going, I can't do anymore, you can always keep your back foot on the floor as this guide to help you get down, right? And push back lots of ways to change the intensity level so that you're focused on your coin. Your body's in this big stretch, hinge, bend the legs, keep your hips square, and pull back. You're done with your change. Okay. Trendelenburg gait. Trendelenburg. I want to keep calling it. The easy thing for me to say is Trendelenburg, but it is Trendelenburg gait. We've talked about this before. What I want you to do is bring your feet into hip width stance. Squeeze your buns. Let your body shift to one side. Pick up the foot without kicking the leg out. That's a whole different movement. Shift your weight, load, squeeze your belly to buns. And then when this foot lifts off the floor, you're pulling your hip up and down, up. So if we don't focus on the weight transition, right? So if all I said to you was just pick up your foot, you would get into this little walkie walk rock like that. But the movement is so much more than this. And as you keep going, I'm going to show you something. If your booty is pushing back, then we're not in alignment. So this is why I'm breaking the movement down to have us load, pull the hips through so you feel your stack, feel the buns get into that tucked curled position, which should make you feel like you've just pulled your belly button in. And you never knew how much you could use your foam roller for other things, right? So you shift, zip and tuck, right? When the foot gets off the floor, pull the hip up. Sweep to the other side, move the foam over, load, zip and tuck. Pick up the toes from the floor so that the leg is stiff, and then decrease and down. I consider myself to have a good amount of strength with this position, but breaking it down into your best line it should feel like such an odd recruitment of muscles that you're not generally used to tapping into, right? Stance, flexed foot, pull the hip up. Do one more. When I see the body movement break this down the wrong way, what goes with it is as someone is trying to pull the hip up, they raise their shoulders and they kick their leg out. Wrong move. Okay, so now get to one side, load the leg, push the heel to the floor, pull the heel up, push down, pull up, push down, pull up. And now you have to figure out, this is be where a mirror would be like really, really useful, right? Has your neck disappeared? Squeeze the buns. So if you, stay with me, if you're balancing on, have your support next to the stance leg, can you, with your hand on your shoulder, can you pull your elbow towards your hip? Pull. Wow. Pull. 3 more. You should feel your quad firing up, belly to spine, but more importantly, switch sides. You got about 8 to 10 of those. Here we go. Standing tall, as much support as you need, right? Lean to your stance leg. Let the foot on the other leg just flex, and that's what gets it off the floor. Now pull your buns under you, right? Hip towards elbow. Keep your foot flexed. Push the heel down. The heel should touch the floor, but you shouldn't go back to your loaded position on that leg. Stay on the other leg. Pull up, push down. So the sensation should be coming back through the QL. It should also be happening on your stance leg. All right, here we go. Elbow to hip, elbow to hip. 2 more. Belly to spine. Exhale, release and relax. Okay. You do need your chair, maybe a little swig of water. So the funny thing is I love these glass bottles, and some of my bottles have a screw lid that has this button that pops the lid open, which has a smaller drinking hole. There's something about the mouth on this bottle where when I drink from it, more often than not, I'm wearing my water instead of drinking it. So I'm going to do that off screen. As I brought this down this morning, I thought this might not be a good one. So Rich was driving yesterday and I went to take a swig of my water and it went all over me. And I was like, at the next stop sign, can you just sit there for a few extra seconds so I can drink my water? Anyway, what did I just tell you we were getting, or didn't I? Oh, get your chair. If I didn't tell you, get your chair. We are going to make sure that we have the slide ability for our foot. So think about what surface are you on, right? Can you sit? And we're going to be working extensors. As I say working, I mean stretching the extensors and stretching the calves and the hamstrings. So you're getting into this little glide. Float it back. Let the foot rock. So now the top of the foot is on the floor. Pull it through, give a little push down, and then a smooth transition to heel. Activate quad, relax ankle. So when you relax the quad and then relax the ankle, see if you can get your toes to the floor, right? It's like I keep saying the nuance or refining the movement down to the most precise position. Analogies, right? Trying to find reference points that describe what I feel happens with a body that's not used to being trained versus a body that has the ability to have movements refined down if they have an analogy that, that makes sense. So for example, As you're learning a skill, I like to reference the skill part as if you could ever think about when you were learning how to draw, or I've had the good fortune of watching Rich's grandkids now, trying to color within the lines, push the heel, right? This time toes up, create the leaning trunk. As soon as you brought your body forward, that should have intensified your stretch. Pull back, toes to the floor. So when you don't have a skill, it's as if you're coloring outside of the lines because your body is actually trying to learn what small little motor movements are necessary. Hinge, to stay within the lines. To stay within the lines requires great skill when we're dealing with our body. So the mind to muscle connection is really important. And hinge, this is your last one here. So we can't take somebody, switch legs, who is not used to doing these things and then say, okay, I have the expectation that just because you hear me say the words that you're going to be able to process this information and stay within the lines. Right now, there are things that you guys have been doing with me over and over again, walking around with the book on top of your head. I can't tell you how many people find that super challenging, right? Picking up the coins with your toes, right? So there's a lot of skill that we're already honing in on that even people who are used to working out, I've started that whole increased motion, heel, body glide. As you come up, push the toe down to the floor the best you can, pull it back. You got about 4 more of these. But this is the interesting part about being able to work all different physical capacities in a group setting together, because I know that the people who don't have a lot of skill can try to start doing something even like this and get so far into it, versus someone who's used to moving their body will have the skill to drive the toes down and actually clean up their movement so it looks nice and fluid. That's the thing. Fluidity comes when you can command the smallest little action to be tight and refined versus like, so there can be really subtle, it doesn't even look like I'm doing anything to somebody who was just looking, but because you all are doing, you know that the the less it looks like I'm doing, the harder it actually is, right? This is your last one. Push out, pull forward, bring it up. So now go to your leg number 1 that you just slid out, and that needs to be the outside leg because that's going to be our tracking leg for hip flexor. I gave this movement in my Tuesday morning class. You don't need to slide forward, but you can. And because we're seated on, like, kind of cockeyed on our chair, you might feel like your body, I'm going to give some allowances here. Your body doesn't have to stay like back rigid, right? We're going to now make it look like we're really gliding by driving our shoulders, right? And personally, when my leg comes forward, if I drive my leg out at an angle, I don't feel so awkward in this front position. So try that. Hip flexor, back is long, right? Pull through, let it go at a comfortable angle back into that heel slide. You're not taking your body towards the leg, you're taking your body into this. It would look like this. I just push back. It's at an opens position and your body comes into this spot between the two legs, which changes that forward bend stretch into a little bit of adductor. Okay, so here we go. Hip flexor. Open it up a little bit. You can use your elbows on your thighs so you don't go too far. Your back is still long. Come up, pull it in, push it back. On our pushback position is where things are going to start changing. Drive it out. Long spine, elbow brace. I like to just brace on this front leg here. And now push back. So there's a point where if we square our hips up and bear down onto this front leg, you should feel like you can square yourself up, and though your leg is touching the chair, you're not actually loaded on it. You're loaded on your body, using your body as your brace, not your chair. And then sit in the chair, rework your configuration to your front slide, lengthen spine, come into it, pull up, get ready, push back, go for length, square the hips up. All you're doing is taking your back hip, trying to rotate, and then use your strong muscles by bearing down into forearm to front knee just to get your hips just to graze the chair. Now, as we sit down, the back leg is going to tuck forward a little bit, reactivate the foot to the right position, and now we're doing full on hip stretch. Pelvic tilt, crisscross arms, raise your elbows, twist your upper body towards the front leg. As you go into your twist mode, reset your pelvic tilt and try to take your knees, pull your knees, both legs towards the middle. And release and relax. There is a lot going on there, okay? So swivel around, push, let your body go forward. I want you to feel like that leg is just going, but in a good way, getting all the kinks out, and then bring it forward. Find the angle that makes you feel like you're still secure on your chair, and then come into the open space between the legs. Up you go. Slide it back. Do as much bracing. You can, as soon as you're ready, leverage yourself onto the leg supporting you, arm bearing down into that leg, right? And you don't have to lift out of the chair, but it is a different stretch. Sit, glide, slide that foot, find the sweet spot that lets you feel like that's just a fabulous stretch. For me, I don't have to brace on the leg. I can know that I can get into this open space. I'm not going to hurt my back. The stretch intensifies, right here. Pull up. What I'm not doing is I'm not rounding my spine. If you're here and you're not going to lift your fanny out of the chair, that's fine. I want you to take the hip bone and I want you to try to twist your body so that you're square to the floor. If you can get your hips to elevate off that chair, do it. Sit down, pull it forward, change the angle to a comfortably wide angle. Keep your spine long. Pull up. Slide back. This is your last one. Full push, because you can tell that unless you're really dialed in on squaring your body, you're not going to be square. You're going to be opened up. We want to twist towards the floor and then pick the booty up off that seat. Set yourself back down. Now bend the leg. Clean up your spine position, pelvic tilt. Take both knees, twist the down back knee towards the chair leg, and twist your front knee, not to overly compensate into the middle, but sometimes this front leg is floating out, but I want it to be neutral to the rest of your spine. So back leg is rolling in towards the chair leg, hands crisscrossed up over shoulders, twist towards that front leg. Keep trying to rock the hips into pelvic tilt. Release and relax. That should feel oddly like work and stretch at the same time. Okay, let's stand. think flow. We're going to think flow for hips and knees and ankles. Whew, so much. These next moves continue to be staple moves for me. And I bring them to you, not every single workout, but often enough. It used to be back in the day where the caution was, don't let your knees go over your toes, right? Like find a way to do squats. This is why we use the wall. Find a way to do squats where your knees aren't pushing over your toes, okay? That makes it very limited, only to find out that you're only as strong as your range of motion. So ankle mobility has so much to do with when our body weight pushes forward and our knee drives forward towards the toes, can you still keep your heel on its support base? Push back. We're starting there. So get as close to your chair as you want to. Maybe you put your chair next to a wall and your chair so that you have a wall and the back of your chair. But as your body starts driving forward, okay, this is when I want you to look down at your foot and I want you to see, is your ankle already starting to slide towards the inward, towards the support base? Are you able to keep your knee going towards and over the toes versus flaring out or in? Because what you do with your hips, right, on your stance leg will also dictate and transfer into the high leg. So for people who have really tight ankles, as soon as they start, it's not just a tight ankle, it's the tight gastroc, soleus, and that Achilles, okay? So as your knee pushes forward, if your heel starts lifting from your base, you have a tight calf complex. So you can only go as far forward as you can keep your heel on its base and push back. Press forward. Time under tension here. Right? We're not even incorporating the back leg bend. We're just starting with this brace position. If everything feels good, then you can take your back leg, get a little bit further away from your chair so that you have more leverage to drive the position. It would not be an unreasonable assumption that if you had tight ankles and tight calf structure, that you might also have like binding through the knee. We're going to address that in a moment, okay? So do the best you can without letting the heel lift up off the seat. And we're going to hold this position for 5, whatever your full on degreed stretch is. 4, 3, 2, switch sides. Stay as close to your chair as you feel like you need to so that you're not doing a balance issue, right? You're starting by looking to make sure that your toes are pointed forward. Okay. Maybe you're able to take your other hand, right, and pull your toes apart from each other just to get the weight set. In the gym, and when I'm out doing my own thing on the weekends, I'm not using a soft padded support, right? So I get a different sensation in my leg, because as soon as my weight starts driving forward, I have to work really hard to keep my heel down on this squishy chair. So you use your hands, you get as far away from your chair as you want to. Your spine is long, you're pushing forward, trying to make sure that your ankle bone isn't sliding to this collapse position. Your knee is tracking forward, not flaring. You don't have to float in and out of it. You could just stay put. We're going to do our knee gapping So you'll need a towel in a moment, okay? Once you do your next forward press, just be prepared to hang out there for a second. Push the heel down, lengthen the spine, knees over toes. That's what we're looking for. There's actually a kneeling test to stretch our calf. It's a test for calf and ankle mobility done close to a wall. You start so many inches foot away from the baseboard and from a kneeling position, and then you try to drive your knee towards the wall without the heel. You're done with this one, without the heel lifting off the floor. You know, there's a test, there's range of motion testing for every joint in our body, right? Reference points. All right, so towel, mat, grab another little swig of water if you need to. The knee flexion exercises can present quite an obstacle. Ankle mobility can be hindered by knee flexion, feeling like you're compromised in the knee, and so you can't get anywhere with the ankle because with your knee tightly flexed, so this is flexion, okay, there's a sensation. If that was something you just experienced, I want you to think, okay, I need to build up my sit base, whether it's your pillow, your Airex pad, your little yoga block. This is not new. We just haven't done this for a while. I've got a fairly thin beach towel that I'm going to roll up a couple of times. If it's too much of a roll, then you can't comfortably get it behind the knee. So what I like to do is flatten it out like a pancake, but yet still double folded, and then put that thing behind my knee. And now my hands are going to go under the towel so that I can grab hold of my shin. And your objective is to tuck your foot back as close to your bum as you can get it, without letting the ankle or the toes shift positions. As I'm showing you this from the profile, I'm realizing that forward line might actually have a better visual for something that I'm getting ready to say. Okay. Okay. Now, if you were evaluating me and you're like looking, going, okay, I'm going to do what she's doing. Okay. From what you all know, what is wrong with this picture? You're like, okay, well, how about we start with alignment? Look, I have my foot pulled back as far as it can go, but look at the rest of me. Our body needs to work as one congruent aspect to alignment. So just because you can pull your foot back, if your foot then offloads and the knee floats out and the rest of you is like a blob, that's not good. We have to offload the tension first to create the alignment, right? And then you're like, okay, because there's body mass that we have to contend with, balance, how much strength do your abs and your erectors, your spine muscles have, how much strength do they have to keep your alignment? And now I know I'm very animated, right? You can hold on to the shin and help pull yourself up, or put your fingertips down and push your chest up, because we want S sit, not C sit. Okay. And that's enough for that leg. That had to have been a minute and a half. right? You are not looking to have a pain sensation. Okay, so let your tucking in guide you to whether or not, okay, if you can look and see that your arch is lifted, that's what we want. Toes pointed forward, right? Heel pulled back to whatever degree that still the heel needs to stay rooted. And then we start cleaning up the line. Do you need hands pushing you forward? Shoulders back, cervical spine retracts? Or are you under the towel and over, right? Under the towel and across the front, pulling yourself forward, but yet still in a nice long spine. I hope that it's not an uncomfortable thing. It's an odd bit of resistance right here at where the tibia, right, and the top of the foot meet. That is the weak link as far as what's really tight here in the calf and the ankle. If you can get beyond having knee pain, right, knee discomfort, if we can take the femur and the tibia and create some space under the patella, this is what this knee gapping is doing. And release and relax. Oof. Okay, so on your back, we are going to do one stretch, both sides, side lying. Stay with me here, right? Using your little towel or your extra head cushion. Pull the legs up into their 90-degree, which is just going to make you start feeling like you're getting a back stretch. And now, though our legs are at a nice clean angle, we want our upper back to be as flat on the floor as we can get. So there's where the challenge is. How tight are your parts that this rotation is limited? Take your high arm. Let this arm just start tracing a big circle around you. The arm does not need to be straight. You're going to bend your arm to whatever degree allows you to have your fullest range of motion without feeling like you are creating shoulder discomfort. So the more discomfort you feel in the shoulder, the tighter the bend of your arm needs to be. All right. If everything feels good, then you can have this massively sweeping range of motion. And you're going to try not to rush through this wide aspect of your stretch. That's where everything is really happening right there. Inhale through the closed position. This is your last one on this side. Open it up. Exhale. Think about taking the shoulder, right? Pull the shoulder away from your jaw and your ear. In your most ideal position, both shoulder blades would be on the floor. Release and relax. There's, when our body is tight and we start trying to like open it up, sometimes what happens along the scapulas, right, on the bottom side of the scapulas as you're going through your rotation, it can feel like things are like cramping up or Charlie horses, or you're just not in the right position. That is your body's only way to tell you you're not in the right position. So don't hold your rotation and fight the stretch if your body is saying, oh, I'm going to cramp up back there. Because sometimes when that muscle cramps up, it takes days for it to release. So I just want you to exercise caution before you ever start. As you're finagling your shoulder blades, don't worry about your legs so much. See, what does it take to get your legs kind of rotated and your upper body squared up to the ceiling? And your top leg here may have to stay lifted in order for you to put that far shoulder where it needs to be. So just know that that's part of your leveraging tool where this high leg is. All right, closing the book, opening, coming around the body. As the arm starts spanning, then you're pulling your shoulder blade down. You're trying to get your shoulder away from your ear. You take a moment looking at the ceiling. Close the book, circle, draw the shoulder blade down. Your head does not have to stay on the floor. When you're closing the book and you're initiating the arm movement, it's okay to pick up your head, right? And as that arm starts floating back through its wide stretch and you're pulling the shoulder blade down, then you can reset the head. Wow, the stretch is so intense. It's intense and in a good intensity for me. So you figure out this is your last repetition here, right? Open it up, soften it, square up, pause here. If anything's going awry, raise the leg just to take some of the stretch off the back body. If everything feels good, then hold on to that leg. Relax the arm, close it, release it, relax it. Oof. I should say you should feel like your body's been pretty well stretched. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And I will see you next time. Take care.